Hi and welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. In this video we're actually gonna tie Pinesquirrel Kutlingen. I know I've done this fly before, but you know, I kind of, when you tie a fly for several years, you kind of develop new techniques, and if you can do it faster, you know, you kind of change the way you tie the fly. And in this case I'm tying it differently that I've used it. So I think I will show you. It's a very simple technique. It's just hackling. It's the way I tie in the hackle. I've tried many different techniques on this fly. So yeah, as you know, there's a link to skip the intro down below, and also a link to my sponsor, Nordisk Fiskeutstyr. They are my main sponsor, and there's also a link to my Patreon page if you want to become a Patreon supporter for the channel. And to my web page and to my social media, everything is down below. And a full material list is also down there, so you can check out what kind of materials I'm using for the fly. So yeah, this is the Pinesquirrel Kutlingen. I'm tying it for my private flies. I use the Tiemco, you know, the 777 SP. It's a hook that you know, you can't get it anymore. And so in this video I'm actually gonna tie it on the Ahrex, the NS110 in a size 6, and that hook works very good for this pattern. So actually it's very early here. It's an early morning. I'm starting off early, so yeah, I'm gonna have a nice cup of coffee. So cheers. Ooh. That's good. Okay, let's go through the materials. So as you can see, this fly is it's not so big. It's a small fly, and it's very important not to overdress the fly, because I'm gonna mimic a this is gonna represent a small goby, and the gobies are thin. They are not thick. And of course then the question comes, why the Spey Hackle? I think this fly would work great without the Spey Hackle, but I think with the Spey Hackle the movement in the flies triggers the fish. And of course this is a small Spey Kutlingen. It's just a small Spey Kutlingen, but I've tied it with some different materials. So it represents a small goby. If you fish it fast with the shiny, you know, the silver eyes, it sort of looks like a small herring, a small thin one. It can also represent, if you pull it fast, it can also look like a small sand eel, you know, those tubis. So it's on a multi-fly, and of course you see the red head. Yeah, I've tied it with a red head. So yeah, the materials we're using, it's Pinesquirrel. I buy these packs from my sponsor. They have these Pinesquirrel. You can buy them in strips, you can buy them in patches, you can buy the whole skin, but this is just a natural color. I don't think this is color. No, this is a natural color. So we're gonna use that. And for the dubbing, I always pre-mix big bags, because you know I tie a lot of flies. This mix is actually, I bought a whole Pinesquirrel skin, you know, the whole thing, and I've used a shaver, and I shaved off all I've shaved, you know. I've shaved off all the hairs, and I mixed it with a little bit of ice dubb holographic silver. And the dubbing is nice and dark, and it just looks amazing on the fly. So that's the dubbing. And for the hackle, I'm using whiting Spey Hackle. I think this is it's a dyed dark dun. It's a bronze, you know. And for this fly, I'm actually using the smaller hackles. So I think if you can't get and you want to buy this, you know, this is expensive, you can buy the hen cape, the smaller ones, because we're going to use smaller hackles. So you can do that. Yeah, and I'm going to use one hackle for the body, and we're going to use some fibers in the front. Forehead fibers, as I like to say. Okay, and we're going to use bead chain eyes in silver in a medium. And I'm using white thread and I'm using red thread. This is just a 6/0 thread, so I think we're ready. Yeah, let's go. So here you can see the fly. It's so cool, it looks so good, and it really looks good in the water. Okay, so let's get a hook. The Ahrex NS110 in a size 6. Oh, swing, swing. And we're just gonna start off in the middle. Go back, snip off the thread, and we're gonna line the thread just by the barb, okay? And we're gonna tie in the tail. And you know, if you don't have squirrel, if you don't have Pinesquirrel, you can use just you know, sanctuary strips in the same color, like a brown one. You can also use rabbit for the body if you can't buy these Pinesquirrels, okay? But I really want a brownish tail on this fly, so I'm gonna pinch out. And these fibers are short, so I would like to use the whole length as good as possible. Just pinch out a few millimeters, and I'm just gonna rip off from the hide. I'm gonna pinch it, hold, and I'm just gonna pull it off like that, and not letting go, and go directly in, and I'm gonna spin my bobbin anti-clockwise, or as I like to say, the thumb to the right. If you have the bobbin here, thumb to the right. That is gonna make the thread fold back, so it's easier to tie in. 1 turn, 2, 3, and tighten down, and you have your tail. Okay? And as I very often like to do, I like to tie in the bead chain eyes, because it's so easy to see the proportions, and you get all the measurements right when you have those in. And you're gonna use some super glue, and you know, yeah. Okay, and here it's important to have space in the front, so I like to measure the width of one of the beads. It's about this, and just do a figure of 8, do 1 turn in the back and flip it over. And I'm just gonna do some figure 8s, and I'm gonna rely, you know, on, with the bead chains, I'm really using super glue. I think you've seen that now. And I'm gonna go underneath. This is gonna tighten up the thread turns, and do a couple of turns in the back. Move your thread so you don't fill up your spool with super glue. And we're just gonna glue this guy with this super glue. And also you can see I've done this is my dubbing needle. I've done this. I like to have a little schwung on it. I don't know if it's called a schwung, you know, it's bent. Yeah, it's bent. Jesus, it's bent up. So when I put on some super glue, the glue won't come off that easy, like that. And we're just gonna make sure you get all the super glue everywhere. Around there, like that, and like that. Oh, that's perfect. Perfecto mondo. I'm gonna clean off. You really like this one. Yeah, they were great. Perfect. And now, this is something new I've been doing. I don't want to tie in the hackle all the way back there. I like to, I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tie in a small clump of dubbing from the hook point to the barb. Because if you start off the hackle in the back with the technique I'm using for the hackling, the hackle kind of, it will break off much easier because here it's very thin with the dubbing, you know. So make a nice dubbing part here, like that, thin one, because we're gonna make a tapered, thin and a little bit thicker in the front. And make sure your thread is just by the hook point, and then we're gonna tie in our Spey Hackle. And I'm removing the fluffy parts. And if you want, you can tie in a rib if you really want to, you know, rib over it, but I haven't done that. And I've been tying this fly for, this way for a long time now, and the fly is, it's really good. It's really good. So just tie it in by the tip. And we're gonna snip off like that. And then we're gonna dub. I'm gonna pull out some more dubbing, and also making sure this is nice and loose, because we're gonna make a loose body. Because why we're doing that is because then the hackle will go down in the dubbing, and the dubbing will protect the fly. So don't pull it, make it nice and loose, and also try to make a tapered body. It's, you know, from thin to a little bit thicker. But we're also gonna brush a little bit, so, you know, yeah. But don't make it a hard body, okay? Nice and loose body. All the way up to the eyes. I'm gonna go front, and I'm gonna just make a half hitch, because I'm gonna use my rod revise. Like that. Put it on this one, my bobbin holder. I'm gonna take the hackle. Again, if you wanna have a rib, do it, but, you know, and hold it nice and tight, and just we're gonna take a turn, pull back, tighten up. And here you need to, I've done this so many times so the hackle won't break, but you're gonna figure out how hard you can pull it before it breaks. Okay, yep. And we're gonna finish off behind the beads. And I like to tie off the hackle underneath the fly under there. So just pull it and pinch it with your finger. Take your bobbin, tie it off, and I like to take 3 or 4 loose turns and pull the hackle stem, and then go all the way back, pull it and snip it off. And look at this fly. Oh, I just freaking love it. I love it. And before we're gonna make a dubbing loop, we're gonna brush a little bit, just a little bit. Be careful, because you don't want a thick body. This goby is thin, so just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. And now we're gonna use one of the fantastic tools. This is small hair clips. Pull everything back and lock down the fibers. Make sure you get every one of those. You can also use some small rubber bands, but I find this works okay. So now we're gonna make a dubbing loop behind here. Take a couple of turns, make sure you're all the way behind the eyes. It's about 6 or 7 centimeters dubbing loop. Go forwards again. And I get a lot of questions. About this one. I think I've had this since I was 16 years old. Oh, it's been a while. This is a nut from a Chevrolet. Chevrolet, you know, the van. And this is just some wire I've used. And it's amazing because of the weight and everything. Yeah, it works great. So it would be cool if you try to make one, and you can tag me on Instagram if you want, and I will repost your picture or something. It would be cool to see some more, you know, variants of this one. But I love it. It's so heavy, and yeah. Okay, let's go. And we're gonna make dubbing loop. And as always, when I'm doing dubbing loops, the materials you should really be careful putting in too much. We're gonna make a nice thin dubbing loop, because you know it's so much easier to have control how how much you're putting on, because again this is a small fly. So put it in, and what some of the most important thing with a dubbing loop is that you divide the fiber so it's nice and loose and thin, because then you have full control of how much you're going to put on. Okay, so spin it up. Oh, the camera is I'll make do. Spin it up, and we're gonna brush it, brush, so you almost can see the dubbing loop. And at this point, you're actually gonna see rabbit fur. Yeah, it itches. So you see, I brushed it, so it's nice and loose, nice and thin. Then you have full control of what you're doing. And I forgot to put my bobbin. I'm gonna make a new half hitch. I'm gonna use my rotary vise again. I'll take a couple of turns in the back. 1, 2. And I like to take on the top, over, go in the front, on the top, and underneath, and underneath. I'm gonna check it. You see I have space. Take one in the front and then tie it off. As you see, it's so important to have the correct measurement in the front, because if you don't do that, you're gonna have trouble. So tie off the dubbing loop. 1, 2. Take this one back. Fold everything back, and then I'm gonna just take a half hitch, snip off, because I want a red head. I want a red head. Snip off the dubbing loop. Schmick, schmack, schmuck. Take off this one. I'm gonna tie in the red thread, my signature color. Yeah, I think this will be my signature color. Okay, like that. And before we tie in the forehead fibers, I'm just gonna brush a little bit on the top, just a little bit, and a little bit underneath. So we pull out some fibers, pull everything back. Looks great. I freaking love this fly. I just love this fly. I get so excited. Huh. Okay, and then we're gonna tie in the forehead fibers. I'm just call it the forehead. Yeah. Okay, so here are I'm just using a small hackle, because we're just gonna make, the fibers are almost the same length as the whole fly. So just pinch out a small bunch with your fingers like that. Can you see? I'll try to show you. Pinch it, pull it off, and you can also snip off the tips so they are aligned. And I'm gonna re-grab it, so I just have a millimeter there, and I'm gonna spin the bobbin, our thumb to the right, but it's anti-clockwise. If you look down, you can see the bobbin is spinning anti-clockwise. Press it down. You have full control. 1, 2. Divide the forehead fibers with your thumb. I think it's quite funny. I like to have a good laugh. And here, as you can see, I have some fibers in the hook eye. So I'm gonna use a technique. Just gonna go like that. Boom. Did you see what I did? I'll grab the thread. I go forwards with the bobbin, and I put the thread on top of the hook eye, go down, and just pull it. This will rise up these fibers, and then we can tie them down. Instead of using the flames, this is also a small technique you can use. Like that. Nice red head. Oh, it's so fun to tie flies. I love to tie flies. We finish. I freaking love it. Snip off. And we're gonna look. We got some small fibers. I actually like to use the lighter. If you don't like, don't do it. But I'm gonna just go boom, and I'm gonna pinch it. Pinch it. Oh, look at it. Oh, yes. Look at the forehead. Underneath, we cleaned up all the small fibers, so it looks nice and compact. And the profile is freaking perfect. Oh. Okay, let's finish this fly off. We're gonna put in some varnish. And again, as I always say, I like to put on a lot. I don't mind if the varnish soaks into the forehead fibers. I don't mind. I really like to make durable good flies. Okay, so after a while I'm gonna varnish this one more time. Give it in like that. That is a perfect Pinesquirrel Kutlingen. I like the brown color. I like the thin profile of a body. I like the holographic silver eye stub. And don't overdo the length of the hackle. Oh, that's a great fly. You should really try to tie it, and it fishes so good. I've had this fly for many years, so yeah. And as always, full material list down below, and also link to my sponsor Nordisk Fiskeutstyr, and to my Patreon page if you want to become a patron and support me, and to my web page and social media and everything. And I think we have some more flies I'm gonna film, okay? So I'm not done. So there are more to come, okay? So cheers. And I'll see you in the next one, okay? Goodbye.